My name is John Welsman. I'm Policy Business Partner at Guide Dogs for Travel and Mobility. Guide Dogs is an organisation that supports children, adults with a vision impairment to support their mobility and independence. Daily, one of the major hazards is crossing the road, being mindful of being able to use controlled crossing points where you have confidence that the vehicles are going to stop for you, listening to those vehicles, making sure if you're using an uncontrolled point to get across the road that you are aware of all the vehicles around you. So those and things like cyclists and other pedestrians and things are always going to be hazards that vision impaired people have to negotiate their way around. I think the danger that electric vehicles pose for vision impaired people using Britain's roads are the fact that they're quiet. Now, there is some noise with those vehicles at higher speeds relatively around 12 to 20 miles an hour or over. Tyre noise, wind resistance, drivetrain noise will make those cars relatively as audible as some modern combustion engine vehicles. But if we're thinking about electric vehicles and maybe some of the newer combustion engine vehicles at slow speeds, they're very quiet. If you're thinking of a mixed environment like a car park or maybe a highly built up residential area, you can sometimes be walking through an environment where there are cars moving around at slow speed, and making sure that you can detect those things can be quite challenging. I think it's really important that sound generators are mandatory on all electric and hybrid cars moving forward, because I think there is an issue with those vehicles moving at slow speed, not being able to hear those vehicles when they're moving at slow speed. And also I think the issue of vision impaired people traditionally, and I think culturally, have been aware of the sound of a combustion engine or a diesel or a petrol engine, and they know what those sound like. So we not only want a sound on those vehicles to indicate their presence, but we want that sound to be relatively replicating the sound of an engine, combustion engine, so that becomes familiar to people, so they understand it's a vehicle they're listening out for as opposed to any other type of sound. It's crucial for manufacturers like Jaguar Land Rover to roll out technology like the AVAS, the acoustic vehicle alerting systems, on their vehicles, because we need to make the environment safe for vision impaired people and other vulnerable road users. We as vision impaired people, as much as anybody else, like the room we're in today, it's lovely and quiet. Why make it more noisy than we need to make it? So if we can reduce the sound that vehicles in general make, we're all going to benefit from that, including vision impaired people. But obviously that comes at a cost. And the cost is that we need to be able to hear those vehicles. I think the measures that Jaguar Land Rover has taken in introducing AVAS, the acoustic vehicle alerting system, a year ahead of its mandatory requirement in 2019 is fantastic. It sends out a message to the motor industry that it's something that can be done. It's something that can be done on high performance sports utility vehicles like the I-PACE. It's something that is important, and promoting that importance for vulnerable pedestrians and road users is something that we both can do together. Us as an organisation who is a leader in our area of mobility and independence for vision impaired people, and Jaguar Land Rover as being an iconic brand who really produce some fantastic high performance vehicles which are adapted and are accessible to vision impaired people in the sense of making them audible at slow speeds.